Hi, I'm Sandra.
Hi, I'm Triffany, and we're friends. Every time we get together, we have these crazy, awesome insights about manifesting, life, synchronicity.
And one day I said, it's too bad we didn't record this because somebody out there could have benefited from hearing this.
And that's how this began.
We never know what we're going to talk about, but when we do and the magic happens, we want to share it with you.
I think we're live. Okay. Oh,
Okay.
yes. We're live now for sure.
Okay, yay.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Did you have a good Mother's Day?
I keep forgetting, or maybe I'm in denial or whatever, but May, when you've got kids, is the busiest month of the year. I think August, September is the second busiest, but certainly May, June is insane. You would think
That's a
that we'd
really
be
good.
winding down for the end of the school year, but instead it's to wind up all these projects that are due and field trips. And I'm just like, help me, Jesus.
You know what? It's the same for me because even though it's different, because my kids are a little older, so they don't have like the projects and field trips and stuff, but they've got finals. So it's kind of the same thing. It's just like as we're so Mother's Day should be in like July. When we actually have had you gone through that transition of like get through the school year, get into summer, have a beat before we ramp up for to go
Yes.
to school. That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. May is not the best time for Mother's Day.
No, especially when it's not the kind of Mother's Day where somebody takes your kids, watches them while you're at the spa all day long.
Yes, the cucumbers over the eyes.
And somebody reads you love notes from your kids, and you just go, oh, my babies are such angels.
Put on those rose-colored glasses. Oh, it's so true. I used to take my Mother's Day gift that I always asked for was to come with me on a hike. And we had 2 or 3 Mother's Days in a row where all they did was whine and complain. And one year was bad enough that I was just like, all right, no more. You're not even invited to my hikes anymore.
Right? I'm like, they're ruining your day at this point. It's just like, thank you. Now I'm not even. I'm frustrated on Mother's Day. That's not cool.
That's not what was supposed to happen. So yeah, you're right. We don't get that like downtime and breakfast in bed and like what we think we'd like. But it's fun. It's still fun. I always like to see what the kids come up with for gift ideas or how committed they are to doing something for Mother's Day, especially when they're little, because you get all that fun little homemade, like it was special to them, like it's just a macaroni necklace or it's just, but while they were making it, it was heart and soul, man.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love those things. I have every single one. My son at one point made me and now you have to understand, Legos were like the end all be all toy for him. So for him to sacrifice Legos for a gift was a big sacrifice. And it's about that big. If we were in my office, I'd pull it out and show it to you. And it says mom, and it has a little tree at the end of it. It's big, blocky, it's chunky. And it has one of his little figurines reading a book in the corner, and it's me and under this tree, and it says mom, and I have it in my office. I love it. I look up at that and I'm just like,
Aww.
that was currency to him. Like that was
Yes.
bigger than currency. That was his Legos, and he never asked for them back. He wasn't like, take a picture and give me my Legos back. And I love those thoughtful things. This year I got a letter from my daughter about what our relationship means to her, and it was just really heartfelt. She even used different inks for the different points that she was making. Like she separated
Oh my
out.
gosh.
I know, it's so good.
I know the girls are so thoughtful. Simone like spelled out my name and then created a poem, using the letters of my name. And I was just I'm like, Simone, that's one of the things I'm going to keep forever.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. So what does this mean now if you're looking at the end of year and Mother's Day? I know you probably have to catch up from not getting a relaxing day yesterday, but what are you looking at in the next couple weeks as you're winding out that school year and coming into the summer?
Yeah. Well, I've got two small events that I'm working on. So I'm getting that together, even though I haven't gotten all the pieces of my business together yet, which I guess is a good thing, like I've already got two events and I'm not even fully, got the foundation laid yet. So that's a good thing.
Yes, it's perfect. That's what you want, right?
Yes.
Good for you.
Yeah. And then it's just a matter of kind of planning the summer. I'm looking forward to this summer more than the others.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of happy about that.
Why is that?
I think I'm just going to be less stressed. I think being in a more fun profession, I think it allows for creativity at all times. Like whatever I'm doing can spark ideas of ways to do events, better than the ones I'm attending, or ideas for future events for potential clients that I'm working with. So I'm just looking, it's not going to just be about trying to figure out how to balance work and kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's going to be a whole different thing for you too, isn't it? Because you pictured that your old balance is harder than this new balance, but at least you knew what you had to do to balance it. This year is going to be, getting to figure that out and really truly getting to figure it out because you're truly excited about this direction. And I love the way that you said it. And this is one of the things I just adore about you. You just said, I'm going to be less stressed. Like you just chosen it. This just is. I am going to be less stressed. And isn't it really, like, in all honesty, as long as we remind ourselves that that is our choice, we actually get to choose that. And I think that's one of the tough things about these transitions for us, especially as moms, is it's super easy to just get sucked into the stress not of our making, stress not of our choosing, stress that doesn't, there's not a long game that then gives us something back. It's just stress for stress sake almost. I know that for me personally, I'm finding every single summer has been different, right? Because the kids are now older, and then, I was married, now I'm not. Like every summer has been different. And it's almost like those choose your own adventure books, where you get to the end of a chapter and you get to choose what that next chapter is what the path of that next chapter is going to be. And I feel like every time I'm at that transitional space, I get to make that choice. Do I want to make it driving to science camp and driving to guitar lessons and cramming in a bunch of stuff and spreading out my attention and telling my clients my schedule's different? What do I want that to look like, right? Or do I, ahead of time, like you've done, say, I'm just not going to be stressed. Here is how I'm going to manage this. Here is how I'm going to manage that. The rest of it, I trust, is going to take care of itself. I just, like, there's a surrender there, isn't it, if we choose it? Do you feel that that's true for you?
I'm hoping that I'm choosing to be less stressed and not just wishful thinking, right? Just be like, oh yeah, I'm hoping that it's going to be less stressful. But for me, I think I get an internal sense that it's going to be that way. I think that's, what you're hearing as a choice is me speaking out some kind of inner knowing for myself. Ooh. That this is going to be a calmer, sweeter, less rushed summer.
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking forward to, getting to experience. What is that like to not have to rush places?
Nice. And you already got a little bit of practice in, didn't you? Because when you went through that 30-day challenge that you talked about as the distractions challenge, but you really started getting rid of some of the clutter that took up mind space. Like you have been so mindful these last few months about really what is going into your space, how your bandwidth is getting used. So Yeah, I hear it as choice. You hear it as an inner knowing, but that inner knowing had to have been developed over, however long that's been for us, 2, 3 months now, of you practicing that consciousness, that level of presence to say yes to this because it's important and no to that because it really doesn't serve. And I think that's, what that reminds me of is, you and I have talked about this before, but there's what we want, in this case, less stress, and then there's what wants us. In this case, less stress, probably defined a little differently, probably like more joy, more ease, right? And the moment those two things are aligned is the moment that they become. And I wonder how much of, what has wanted you is more ease, and you started to practice more ease, more consciousness, right? In terms of what brings ease. And now that like popped you into alignment, like that puts you into the groove, into that flow of more ease in your life. And now you just know it. Now it's not choice at all. Now it's just like, less stress. That's going to be good. I love that. That's a really good example of that, because unless we see examples in people's lives of what that looks like, we can blah, blah, blah. We can read a book. We can put it in a chapter. We can write a blog post, whatever. But to make sense of how that looks in the real world, where dinners still have to be made, decisions, homework still has to get done, grocery, like all of that stuff. How do you, because that doesn't go on hold, does it?
No. It sure doesn't.
While you're figuring out how to have less stress in your life. I think that speaks volumes about the work you've done. I don't know if that's, I don't know. Does that ring true for you at all?
It does. You know what? It reminds me of a program that I saw on Netflix, a documentary called Minimalism.
Ooh.
And it's sort of how I've kind of lived my life, but not as much as I would like it to be. I mean, compared to a lot of the people that I know, I'm living minimalistically, but according to, I know I still have stuff that is just taking up space.
Sure.
And I had the kids watch it with me. And in preparation for a garage sale that's happening this weekend, the community garage sale. And so we went through all of their toys. And I went through all, their clothes, which already was mostly done, because every time I see something too small for them, I just throw it in a bag. It took hours just to go through toys. It was insane. And prior to that, we didn't think that they had that many toys, because when they go to their friend's house, their friends have at least 4, if not more, times as many toys as my kids do. So we've all been on the impression, my kids don't have that many toys. But when you have to take everything out of cupboards, put it in the middle of the room, and decide what do you put back in because you value it, and what do you really, you might like it, but it doesn't bring you joy. You're not playing with it. If I had gotten rid of it myself, you wouldn't even remember you had this game. So it took hours to do it. We filled up 4 boxes of toys.
Nice.
And yet, if you open up the cabinets, it doesn't really look all that different. Like there's anything missing. It was a huge experiential exercise, really, in abundance. And I think everybody should do this. Like I was so tired after that weekend of spending hours helping them go through the sorting process, and then putting them in boxes, and then lugging these boxes into my garage so that it's ready for the garage sale. I just couldn't even go through my own stuff anymore because I was just so tired. I was like, I need to go through my own stuff next weekend.
Oh no.
So it was, for me, it was an extension of the clearing out that I'd already been doing. This is why I was bringing it up. Is, a lot of the clearing out of my life that I've been doing, the clearing out of my old life, really, that there are many different ways of making these decisions on being different. Like, because we had talked about like the whole have, be, do paradigm, and how you could do all you want to try to have all you want. But if your being is in alignment with any of those, you're never going to really be, you know, authentically in alignment. And so to me, I think a lot of the clearing out, whether it's emotionally clearing out or physically your environment clearing out, really helps, you know, generate different forces that we're unaware of, to our benefit. You know, and I believe that we're unaware of a ton of different forces, because this weekend, one of the moms that I spent Mother's Day with was talking about how she has a friend of hers who's very much about positive affirmations. Like, you don't want to say negative things out loud because, you know, you can attract negative things to you. And I thought, how interesting, because in the past, I used to think that way too, until I discovered Psyche that talked about how your subconscious mind has all this power, right? And so if you're at the level of understanding that, you know, your thoughts attract things, and so you have to kind of monitor your thoughts and be careful about your thoughts, well, that's such a small piece of manifestation compared to your whole subconscious mind. And so to me, that was an analogy of, you know, the small piece that we understand is so small compared to the part that we don't understand. And so we have control over who we're being. We just don't put enough focus on it. We put so much more focus on what we're doing and what we're trying to get instead of who we're being. I believe if we spent more time focused on who are you being in this moment, what kind of person do you want to be in order to have and do the things that you want to do, we could be activating forces we don't even know exist that would be helping us be able to have the things that we want to have. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Yeah. So I was like, I think I'm gonna, so now I love talking to you because I feel like I'm an introvert, and yet like I'm getting insights just by talking to you, which is very much an extrovert trait. But I think this summer, I think what we should do this summer is, I mean, well, I'm inviting you to do this with me this summer, is to like just kind of focus on who it is that we want to be, like the characteristics of who we want to be, and just focus on that and see what happens at the end of the summer. You know,
I love
because one of the things that I focused on, like, you know, I had sent you and a couple of other people a text saying, hey, you know, I don't want to go back into my hermit habits of just, you know, sitting around watching hours of Netflix and eating ice cream. And, you know, I'm going to start calling you guys up to do stuff with me and to go out. So I'm choosing not to be a hermit anymore and to be more of an outgoing person. And I had to make choices to say no to things that were keeping me from being that person. So let's see what happens.
I love it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Absolutely. And I think what we talked about, really, in all honesty, I mean, again, I just, for some reason, and maybe this is my lesson, or maybe somebody who's watching this needs to hear this or something. What's remarkable and what keeps standing out to me in this conversation from your side is this conscious choice. Because again, you're saying, I want to be different. Here's what I want to be. I'm not quite there yet. You know, I know what that looks like. I know some of the characteristics, but I'm willing to sort of take those steps experientially and see how they get me there. You know, the idea of minimalism and cleaning out, you knew what that could look like. You didn't really know what that path was going to look like with the involvement of your kids until you did it. You didn't even really know what the end product was going to look like. And guess what? It didn't look minimalist, right? Like, so it's really letting go that outcome and still having a conscious choice about the journey, about being willing to take those steps of self-discovery. And you're absolutely right. Because when we can, it reminds me actually of your little video of the universal law of belief, right? When you were talking about our thoughts and our words are such a tiny little bit. If we're trying to reverse engineer how all of this works with the little bit that we understand, what happens then instead if we say, I don't understand, but I have a glimpse, I have a glimmer, I have a willingness to grow and to change and to engage help and support. So let's go see. And I really do feel like rather than trying to make a formula and reverse engineer what is at the genesis, what's at the very base of transformation, we're doing so much more quickly when we do this, when we have these little experiments and these conversations that bring something out in us, when we take a little journey for a garage sale, and who knows what it's going to be, right? And this is a whole nother perfect example of how you can do this self-development and this self-empowerment and this transformation without putting your life on hold. This is using your life. This is using the comfortable, the uncomfortable, the unknown, the unsure, because it's practice at transformation, because it's practice at awareness and belief and attraction and all of those things. And I think I love everything you said. If you guys are watching this, go back and reverse. Watch what Sandra just said again, because it's if you can really look at where belief and mindset meets reality, our physical reality. I put it in quotes because what we, it's again only a piece of what we understand, right? But if we could look at where these two worlds that seem separate, when we can look at where they meet, that's where we can affect change. And you're absolutely right, because it's not just for ourselves. When we transform, when we take on all of those energies that help us manifest and grow these wonderful things, we are creating an environment that makes it others easier to do it as well. Mm-hmm. And that's why you want conscious conversations. That's why you want a Sandra or a Triffany in your life. Because that's where the magic happens, right?
That's right.
So that's our new challenge. That's our summer challenge. It's not
cool.
It's a summer game. It's not even a challenge, is it? It's a summer game. How aware can we be of who we are being, and what choices can we make to become the person we want to be? Awesome. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Because it's all about the being.
Yeah, it really is. Because when you can, and we've talked about this we've used other words for the same stuff before too, but talk about that feeling state. If you can get into that feeling state of being abundant, that feeling state of being at ease, the feeling state of being healthy, when you get into it, that's when you're like, oh wow, this coincidence happened. No, you now created the energy that can create it, understand it, see it, and accept it. Mm-hmm. That's what shifted, because you changed who you were being in that moment. And I don't know about you, but for me personally, I've noticed that if I can do that for even glimpses in a day, I don't have to police everything I do all day long. If I can do it in even just brief moments, I still see miracles in my life. Is that true for you too?
I totally agree, because I had, it's been a while, so I can't even recall the exact incident, but I do remember having a realization that what you're talking about actually feeling what it is that you want, that a lot of times, I had an incident where I actually felt it, and I realized that all the other times that I thought I was feeling it, I was simply imagining it.
Yes.
And there's a energetic difference between imagining what it would feel like and actually experientially feeling it like it was real, and then you snapped out and went like, oh no, that wasn't real, that was, you know what I mean, like you totally, almost like you were in your other dimensional self that had that.
Yes.
And you felt it, like who you are, feel it. And it's not just a completely solitary mental space of imagining what it feels like. It's two different things.
Yes.
Absolutely. Again, like what we talked about, the devil's in the details, right? I mean, if something works for one person, it doesn't work for another person. It's because there's some little tweaking that needs to be done, and we're not always aware of what that tweaking is. And that was a moment for me where I was like, I didn't even realize that I wasn't really feeling it, that I was imagining that I was what it would feel like. And
Right.
imagining what it would feel like is not the same thing as feeling it. Just like the whole YouTube video I did on, you know, imagination versus visualization. And in fact, I can't even remember what that isn't the title of the video. I'm trying to remember what the real title of the video is. But it was all about how to not imagine and truly visualize.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a subtle difference, but once you get that difference, you're like, oh my God, yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm not imagining or thinking about what it would feel like.
Right, right. It actually takes up space. That all the cells that hold ease or joy or abundance, they light up inside of you. Like you get that giddiness, or you get that like warm space in the heart, or whatever it is that it feels like to you. It manufactures it, and that's when you know you've done it right, because that's the kind of feeling that tells you your brain isn't knowing the difference. So you could be, you know, bankrupt, negative dollars in your account, but if you're feeling that, your brain is feeling and understanding and creating space and recognizing abundance, right? When you can feel it. And that's how you know when you're there. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I would also say, for those people that can only imagine and can't get to that feeling space, keep imagining it, because it's in that mind's eye space that you're going to be able to create that. I mean, you think about it, we do it on the negative side quite easily, right? Like, it is not that hard. My kids are drivers, right? So it's not that hard to not get that phone call when you expected that phone call, and for your head to go to the worst place and you get that gut punch, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
those negative, you can feel the negative stuff very easily because of our negativity bias. So we really do, if we're talking about who we want to be, if we're really taking this game, this summer game we're going to play seriously, we really want to understand that if we're creating that same level of emotional purity in the positive, that takes extra practice. It takes extra time, because we don't have a bias. Our brain isn't wired for a positivity bias, unfortunately. We can change it. It's neuroplastic. We can, it will get there, but it's not there by default. I guess all of that to say, and you can tell me if this is true for you too, the more you create that feeling space, the easier it gets to create that feeling space. Is that true for you too?
Yes. And another recent revelation that I had in the area of manifesting, because for some reason I've heard that, you put it out there and then you let it go. It's for me, I've just been like, okay, first of all, again, it's just a subtle tweaking thing. It's, yes, you have to put it out there and let it go, but you don't forget about it.
Right.
So you let go of the having to have it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's perfect language.
Yeah. You have to let go of the having to have it. But you also have to keep repeating the request. You still have to continue to send energy towards it. You have to keep repeating the request and send energy towards it, but not send a grasping energy that creates a resistance to it coming. It's so hard to explain, because it was just like, for the longest time I couldn't understand. It's like, how do you not want something that you want? That's impossible. It's impossible for me to not want something that I want. It's great. There's no way I could get to that point. But I've slowly been like, that's so much part of, like, manifesting, that you're just like, okay, I gotta find a way to not want what it is that I want. And for some things, I found that it helps to find a competing want, right? So that you create a win-win situation where if you get it, it's great. But if you don't get it, you're getting something else instead that is also great. And so it takes away that energy. So that created for me the energy of wanting it, but without that grasping, having to have it.
I like
so
that.
That was an ingenious little thing. What?
You have an example in mind? I love that. Do you have like a...
Well, I discovered that because I realized that it happened every time I was driving and I needed to send a text, and I don't text and drive. You know, I don't believe that I could text and drive and not get into an accident. So I do not text and drive. I wait until my car is at a full-on stop at a red light to do it. And then I noticed that I can never get a text out because I kept getting green lights. And I'm like, how come when I want green lights, I can't get green lights, but now when I don't want a green light, I'm getting a green light? What's going on? And so I had to go, okay, there's a process happening here that gives me what I've wanted in the past, but not now. And so how does that work with and so I started playing games where if the light is red, I'll pull out my phone to try and text somebody, and like it's like automatically the light turns green for me.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And so that's what I realized. I was like, okay. I was like, I mean, part of me does want the light to be green because I'm going somewhere and I want it to be green. But then I set up the situation where I also wanted the opposite because I also wanted something else. And so now I get what I had originally wanted because I pulled away I have to have it. Why this light needs to be green? You know, that energy of like, oh, is an energy of, you know, we think it's trying to pull more, but it doesn't do that at all. I mean, it's just, you know, it's something that flips it backwards in the metaphysical plane so that it creates resistance instead of a greater pull. So you have to take that out. Otherwise, you're putting up resistance to getting what it is that you want. And so it was through the driving that I was like, okay, there's got to be a message here. And so I try to figure out ways when I want something to create a competing want to remove that resistant energy out of it, you know, because I still want what it is that I want, but I'm not having this other energy. So that's that. But I also discovered that that the letting go doesn't mean you put it out there and then forget about it. You know, that works sometimes, that I've seen it work in my life, but I think I had put out enough energy that, and a physicist could probably explain this a little bit better than me, but you know, when you put out energy and you keep contributing energy and energy and energy to something, it creates its own momentum so that even if you let it go, the energy itself has gotten into a place where it keeps going without your help anymore.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the analogy that I use, it's not a perfect analogy, but that, you know, if you want to boil water, just putting it on a hot stove isn't enough. You have to continuously generate heat until you get to a place that makes that molecule of water take a quantum shift into a molecule of gas. And so you have to continue generating heat in order to change the molecular state of water. And so to change the state of your life, you do have to in some way continue to generate energy in the way that will continue it. So it's not going to happen overnight. And so that's why I'm really excited to see what happens with us at the end of the summer, because generating energy of being, I think, is probably the most powerful way that we have with our limited knowledge of how the universe works, of continuously generating. It's like, I want to have this, so let's be this person and let's just keep being it. And every life is just going to give you moment after moment chances to decide on who you're going to be. Are you going to, you know, be lazy, fall asleep, and go back into the old pattern of who you've been this whole time? Or are you going to stay awake and be the new you and generate enough quantum energy to shift your life?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. That is so funny. And see, again, what a great example of using your real life. You just got curious. You just said, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Every time I want this happens. And like, you just started looking at your life from this, rather than being caught up in it. Because it would be super easy, wouldn't it, to be frustrated about both of those scenarios. About the constant red lights, or the as soon as you need one, you can't get one, right? It would be so You stay in the negativity. And rather than do that, you start asking why. Why would that work that way? Why, what is the, and now, again, like you said, limited understanding of the universe, we don't know. But if that's a tweak that works for someone, if that helps somebody answer that, how do you want something and not want it at the same time? Let's play. Let's get in the sandbox and play with it. And if that's if that was your tweak, but it's not my tweak, I'm going to be closer to my tweak after experimenting with that, right? Like that's how you make a game of it. And I tell you, more and more, I'm convinced if we want to really understand manifestation, watch children, watch what they do. If they want ice cream, can we go get ice cream? Well, not right now. Can we go get ice cream? Yes, after this. Can we go get? In between the times that they're asking, they went and grabbed their crayons and they got to color. They went and grabbed their sibling and they got to play. They went and they put it to us. Trust that at some point the answer is going to be, okay, yes, now is a good time. And they go do something else, as you're pointing out, that feels good to them. They're going and making a different choice about who they want to be until that yes comes around. And the amazing thing is I've seen them, my kids have done this. It's not in the budget. Sometimes that's had to be my answer. I'll be damned if these kids don't manifest it somehow. Some kid at school gives it to them, or, grandma just happens to send in a I love you card, some coupons for Dairy Queen free ice cream. It's amazing to me how kids bring this stuff to them with no effort. No effort.
Well, think about it too, because they're not putting out that resistant energy, right?
Exactly.
The difference between a kid who, goes, okay, and then they goes and colors, and a kid who keeps just pounding after you, but I want it now, I want it now, just gets whiny, and then you're just like, no. And even if it was in your mind, okay, let me just, I'll get back to you. By that time, with the whiny kid, you're just like, I'm not dealing with you at all. I said no, and that's it. And that, you know what I mean? It's resistant energy, that grabbing sensation is resistant energy. And that's what we do a lot of times with a lot of things we want. We go, why isn't it here yet? I'm so frustrated with God. This isn't fair. Other people have it. All of those things, keep it away from you.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Because they don't have that whole, their sense of consequence, and in truth, if you don't get ice cream, there isn't. It does change, and I think our powers are supposed to get stronger. That's why the practice gets harder. It's much easier to lose your resistance to ice cream than it is the mortgage payment, right?
Yeah, definitely.
If you can shift even the thought that you realize, I don't know anybody. I mean, maybe we just haven't had the conversation. I'm sure I know somebody, but I feel like most of the conversations I have with people around this, they almost always say, I was great at manifesting shit when I was a kid. I would just say I wanted a new jacket, and so would outgrow it, and I'd get this new jacket. Or they would just, and everybody kind of gets that we had a frame of reference for this. We have a paradigm already set within us that understands how this works. It's just that we're meant to get bigger. Our power is meant to expand. The universe is ever expanding. We are the universe. We are ever expanding. So that means our practice gets a little more difficult. That conditions, like increasing weights, right? That practice gets increasingly harder simply so that we can get better and better at it. And if you can shift that to going, oh, well, I must be getting better. That means I mastered my next level. The fact that I am struggling right now, oh my God, okay, all right. If you can shift that energy, and then your attention immediately starts going, okay, where's the money then? Where's the money then, right? Or whatever it is, the partner or the ease, the less stress, whatever that is, the moment you start getting curious and you start sort of looking for it around every corner like a child would, you are elevating your manifesting powers. It reminds me of, there was a lesson in Course in Miracles where it said, your problem isn't that you, I don't remember verbatim, but the essence was you're not asking for too much. You're asking for too little. If you fully understood your abilities, to connect with God and co-create with God as God, you are limitless. There's nothing you could ask for that couldn't come into being. And that really stuck with me because I'm like, I think I have this little baby problem to solve. And if instead of looking at it as a problem to solve, I look at it as a game, as a chance to practice, as a chance to expand my universal energy, if I can change that, then I can suddenly see something more than just making the mortgage payment, more than just creating more free time. Suddenly, that free time has meaning. Suddenly, I'm connecting with people that also want to expand their abundance. All of a sudden, these pieces start to click together because it comes from a different place and it doesn't have that resistance, just like you're talking about. So watch.
Yeah, I love that Course in Miracles quote. That's beautiful.
Oh my gosh, I'll put in the comments on my video. I'll go look it up and put the proper quote in there. But I love it. Yeah, you're asking for too little because we expect our limitations to be the truth, right? That's the whole thing, is we expect to just make ends meet. Well, what happens? That little kid wasn't expecting to just get crayons. They were expecting crayons and ice cream. Okay, well, you've got the ice cream taken care of. I'm going to go grab my crayons, right? Like, how are we? And there's that whole thing that you're talking about. Find a competing want and allow them both to be okay in any given moment. And then you end up with both along the way, along the journey. I love it. Oh, good. So I'm curious. I have people who are watching this. I want to hear if you're doing this for yourself this summer because, Sandra, this is our last.
That's right. This is the end of season 1.
So we'll see you guys in the fall for, we have to figure out when our kids go back to school.
Yes. The varying schedules.
Yeah. But
Cool.
Stay in touch with us over the summer. Just because we're not doing these weekly doesn't mean we can't be having conversations online. And you've got access to Sandra's website and her blog. Come see me on my blog, also social media. I can't wait to hear what happens for people.
I know. I can't wait to see what happens for us. That'll probably be season 2 opener. Here's how we're different.
Yes. This is our cliffhanger, right?
Yeah. All right, then. I guess this is our sign off.
Okay.
It was a great season 1 with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. What a pleasure it's been. I love you so much.
Cool. All right. Take care.
Bye.